Hola.
Hello, this call is being translated.
Abuela, listen to what my phone can do.
Abuela, escucha lo que mi teléfono puede hacer.
¡Wow! Ahora dime sobre tu novia nueva.
Wow, now tell me about this new girlfriend.
Huh?
Tú sabes lo que dije.
You know what I said.
Language is no longer a barrier thanks to Live Translate with Galaxy AI on Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Learn more at Samsung.com. Samsung account login required. Calls must be made using the native Samsung dialer.
Walmart Plus members save on meeting up with friends. Save on having them over for dinner with free delivery with no hidden fees or markups. That's groceries, plus napkins, plus that vegetable chopper to make things a bit easier. Plus, members save on gas to go meet them in their neck of the woods. Plus, when you're ready for the ultimate sign of friendship, start a show together with your included Paramount Plus subscription. Walmart Plus members save on this plus so much more. Start a 30-day free trial at walmartplus.com. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. See Walmart Plus terms and conditions.
The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. Are you tired of sacrificing comfort for clarity? Meet Andau Medical, revolutionizing the way you see dentistry with their cutting-edge ergonomic loupes. Picture this: precision, comfort, and unparalleled support all rolled into one sleek package. Andau Medical's ergonomic loupes are engineered to perfection, boasting a 60-degree declination angle for optimal posture, making every procedure a breeze. But wait, there's more. These loupes are not only ergonomic, but also the lightest weight on the market, so you can say goodbye to neck strain and hello to effortless focus. With an expanded field of view and depth of field, you'll catch every detail with crystal clarity. And guess what? Andau Medical offers the broadest magnification range in the market, from 3x all the way up to 10x, ensuring you have the perfect view for every task. But what truly sets Andau Medical apart is their unwavering commitment to support. They offer personalized product customization and individualized onboarding support, ensuring you get the most of your investment. Here's the cherry on top: a lifetime warranty, a convenient loaner program, and a customer loyalty program that rewards you for your loyalty. Plus, even more support for students. Need assistance? Andau Medical has got you covered with a dedicated support portal designed with you in mind. Plus, they offer a generous 3-month customization period to ensure your loop experience is tailored to perfection. With representatives across North America and the ability to demo their loops remotely, experiencing the Andau Medical difference has never been easier. And if you're still not convinced, just take a look at their glowing reviews. Over 400 5-star ratings on Google, maintaining a perfect score. It's no wonder why dental professionals everywhere are making the switch to Andau Medical. So if you're ready to elevate yourself to new heights, visit Andau Medical's website at www.andaumedical.com. And don't forget to follow them on my social media to stay up to date on the latest innovations in dental technology. Transform your dentistry experience today with Andau Medical's ergonomic loupes, because when precision meets comfort, excellence follows. Again, thank you to Andau for sponsoring this week's podcast episode, and I will have their link in the description. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm joined with a guest here today, and we're going to be talking about the dental licensing process. So I'm very fortunate to have Dr. Yalda here to share her experiences as well. But could you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us where you're practicing?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Dr. Yalda Rastamnajad. Currently I'm in Los Angeles. I'm from Boston. I've been in Los Angeles for a little bit over a year now.
Okay, awesome. And where did you do dental school?
I did dental school in Portland, Maine at University of New England. Shout out to UNE.
So when you were at UNE, did you know you were going to relocate to California?
No, I had absolutely no idea. So when I was at UNE, I thought I was going to go back to Boston. That was my plan. And that's actually what I did. I went back to Boston. I was there for almost 3 years, like 2.5 years. And then my now husband matched for a residency out here. So we were already engaged at that point, and I was like, well, I'm following you. So I had to get a whole new license and move to California.
Okay, got it. So I guess starting with the first process from when you graduated UNE to getting licensed in Boston, what do you remember about that licensing process?
To be honest, now that I've had 2 licenses to apply for, a breeze. It was like cake, honestly, the easiest thing ever. I just submitted all the paperwork. I gathered everything. And when you're a new grad, like the school kind of like helps you. They give you like what you need, and there's people there to help you gather the information. And then you just submit it, you pay the fee, and the turnaround time I would say was like maybe 2-3 months for me. Like I got it really quickly. I was already working. Well, we graduated in May. I was working by August. So it was like very quick. Can't say the same about California.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. But I'll share a bit about Michigan. It's funny that you're like, oh, like a couple months was pretty quick, which is also relative because I had applied and I only had to wait 2.5 weeks to get my license approved, which was
that's
great.
Amazing. 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, it was. And with that time, I was all like, oh, like when's it going to come? When's it going to come? Just because I knew previous years that theirs only took a few weeks. So I was getting all antsy. But I know like in the broader scheme nationally that's super quick between states.
That's amazing. And to be fair, I graduated in 2020. So I was like peak COVID, like the worst possible time that you could ever graduate is when I graduated. So that was lengthy compared to now. I bet you if you applied for a Massachusetts license, you'd probably get it in a month, maybe a month and a half. But 2 weeks is like, that's a gift.
Yeah, it was good. I tried to be really on top of things because we had to submit all the normal stuff like your board's passing scores for the clinical and the written test. And then you had to get like the background check, fingerprinting done, things like that. And I could do all of that before I even had graduation day. And then the only thing we were all waiting on was our official transcripts with the degree conferred in it. And that was kind of what the main university had to prepare for us. So that wasn't ready till like a week after graduation. Then all of us applied. And then most of us got the licenses within like 2 to 3 weeks from then. So it was super, super quick.
Did you have a law exam that you had to take?
We did not. I know some states have like that justice and jurisprudence or whatever test.
Amazing.
Yeah, we have to, when we renew, we have to have 1 hour or something or 2 hours of justice and jurisprudence CE. It's like part of our 60 hours or whatever it is. But for the initial licensing, we didn't. Same thing with like required like controlled substance, like opioid training. And then we also have human trafficking training was all required for the initial application. But our dental school said it was in our curriculum and they could give us like documentation of that. So we didn't really have to do anything extra. Great. Just paying all those fees, which I personally think should at least be put into the like additional fees for D4 year that the schools tell, because you can only take out a certain amount of loans. So I don't know why they don't put boards and licensing into that amount. Yeah, it's
especially like the DEA.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. No one prepares you for that.
Yeah, I just did my DEA license yesterday, and that was almost $900. And then our state license was I wrote it down, $322, and then the controlled substance for the state is $260 per location. But I have friends that are doing a couple offices, so they had to pay like again per location. And then boards, I think for me was around like $3,000 between all the tests. So I mean, and grand scheme when you're making an income, it's not that big of a deal. But as a student, when you have such limited funds, I feel like there needs to be something a little bit better in the system than how it's currently set up.
That's kind of low, I would say, for your license cost. Like for the state of Massachusetts, and I know for California, it was like $700. And that's not including your, controlled substance and DEA and all that. So that's actually pretty nice that Michigan's a little bit lower. But still, I mean, when you're coming out of dental school, you already have a ton of debt racked up and you're like, oh, I didn't know I need another $5,000 just to get my license. Like no one tells you that.
Exactly. And it was also interesting. I was considering maybe like Ohio or some of the other Midwest states. And on paper, it would look like, oh, they were even cheaper than Michigan. But you had to look at the renewal was every 2 years and Michigan's every 3 years. So then the price for license kind of equalized out. What's the renewal for Boston or for California? Do you know?
Yeah. So for Boston and California, it's both 2 years.
Oh, wow. So California is expensive and more frequent. I've heard that California is pretty crazy though. So can you tell me a little bit about how the process was like from relocating from Boston to California? What all did you have to do to make that happen?
It's like PTSD, but I will definitely tell you. So when I found out that my now husband matched for his residency, I'm talking like this is March of 2022. So this is a while ago. As soon as he found out, I was like, okay, I got to get the California license. Let me start. So I would say like roughly April, I was like on it. So when I started, I just downloaded the application. I filled everything out like pen and paper and mailed it in and was like, okay, that's it. Like, gotta go by. Like, got everything. And then like months went by. I'm calling them nonstop, and no one's really like getting back to me. Finally, somebody answers and somebody gets back to me and says like, oh, everything you sent in is null and void. Like, why would you send that in? We have our own separate online application. So I've already at this point waited at least like 2 months to find out what you sent in, like what you scavenged to get all this information, get your dean to sign this specific piece of paper and all this stuff was useless. So I had to fill out, they have their own application online called the Breeze application. So whatever California dental license you're applying for, whether it's hygiene or assistant or dentist, you have to do it through this website. So now I'm like, okay. So I go, I fill out the application, and I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Another couple hours of my life wasted, but I submit it, send the payment, everything. Weeks go by. I'm like, where is my answer? Nothing. Finally, they respond back to me like, your boards is an issue. And I'm like, what could possibly be wrong? I passed it. Come to find out that when I graduated, so this is like so painful. So when I graduated, I took, so you know how there's two parts. I believe it was the same for you. Did you guys take like a sim portion where it was like the bridge prep, the crown prep, and the endo? And then you had probably not live patient anymore. You had like whatever the class two and yeah. So that was all on live patient when I took it. That portion I had taken in January, but the bench part, the bridge prep and all that, I had taken October 19th, 2019. So November 15th, 2019, notice I know the dates, like they're like engraved in my brain. They changed the law. They changed the rules. So anybody who took any portion of the boards before November 15th of 2019, you had to retake it. Like you couldn't just like apply for your license. You had to just retake it. So now here I am, like a practicing dentist of almost 3 years. And they're telling me like, oh, actually you have to retake your board exam. So I had to retake that whole portion. And it wasn't just like, okay, like you got to retake this exam. Like, no, you have to like sign up for the test. Like when, I don't know how it was for you from your experience. Did you even look at the test dates when you went to sign up for that? Your school probably was just like, this is the day you're taking it, and you took it. Yeah. So I had to like find a day that was like still available. All the exams were full. I was like waiting on wait lists. And finally, I was lucky enough to get off of a wait list, and I flew to Florida. So I'm in Boston. I flew to Florida to take the test. And like, you know, I'm practicing for a few years. I'm doing bridge preps and crown preps like all the time. I'm cocky. So I take the test and I don't pass. So now I'm like, oh my God, I passed this as a dental student, but now I'm a dentist and I can't pass this, which I found out later was like very typical because you're cocky and you're like, you're not like, you know, measuring it with the putty. You're not like really as picky as you were when it was like muscle memory. So I took it in Florida. I didn't pass. And then I had to like find another place to take it. And it was so difficult to find an open test, so much so that I had to fly to Hawaii to take this test. So talk about like, okay, you're flying to Florida, you're paying for that flight, you're paying for that hotel, you're paying $2,000 almost for the test. Then you're flying to Hawaii, you're sitting on a plane for 13 hours, going for just a weekend to Hawaii to take this test. Like it was an absolute nightmare. And like no one from CDCA was helpful at all. Like they were like, oh, you need to retake this and there's no spot. sorry. So, that was like in of itself, like 4 months of a delay, because to find an exam, to get into this, wait on a wait list until the day of the exam and then find out that you didn't get off. It was like hectic. So finally, after passing it, I waited probably another month and a half to 2 months after they had everything for me to get so like start to finish, it was 8 months for me to get my license.
Wow. Yeah, that is a crazy story. It lived up to what I'd heard, that it was a crazy story.
Nightmare.
I'm curious, like, I noticed for our test, there were a few people each day that weren't like my classmates. I was like, okay, they must be testing for some other reason. But it's so ridiculous that they couldn't like make a few more spots. Like,
No.
We had so much room that wasn't being utilized probably at every school. And then there's people like you that are like, please let me take the test.
I was like begging. I was like, please, like, can I take it? My school was like not even an option. They were like, no, we're not. It wasn't even around that time period. But like BU and Tufts, which were like steps away from my apartment, was offering the test. And they were like, nope, sorry, registration's well past. And there's like 3 people on the wait list before you, and they're not even going to get off. So I couldn't get off a wait list. So like, it wasn't even like, yes, I didn't pass it, which really sucked. Like that was a huge blow. But then like, just to even get to that test that I didn't pass, to then get to a test to retake like that portion, it was like, oh my God, it was hellish.
Yeah. And so the reason you had to retake it is the rule, like your scores are only valid for so long when you're trying to move to California, or like, why did they make you retest in the first place?
So anybody that is under 5 years of practicing, you don't have what's called reciprocity. So like, let's say you decided you wanted to move to California, you actually will be fine because you took CDCA 8X, which is now 1 exam. Back, like, it sounds like this is like ancient times. This is like literally 4 years ago. But 4 years ago, it was an East Coast exam and a West Coast exam. It was REB and NERB, and it was called CDCA, but it was like, that was East Coast only. So I took that thinking like, I'm going to be in the East Coast my whole life, like, not a big deal. But I did have classmates who were from California that took the REB exam. And so those classmates actually that wanted to move back to the East Coast ended up getting screwed as well, because their test was only valid for the East Coast. We had some classmates that took both, which is mind blowing because it's the exact same test. It just had a different name.
Yeah, which is why they've gone and combined them now. Thank goodness. Yeah. I know there's a lot of work, I mean, in general with all elements of licensure and like dental school, I guess, guidelines and things. They're trying to get things more standardized across the schools and make licensure a little bit easier, which would be great down the line, but it doesn't make what happened to you go away, unfortunately.
It's crazy because it's like just people in kind of in my year and like the year before that kind of really got like screwed. And I know a couple of people that we almost have like a support group. Like at the time we were all going through it, and it was like people from different schools that I was like meeting at exams, or like, you know, just on Facebook groups and stuff, people were introducing me to that were going through the same thing. And believe it or not, like a lot of these people were not passing this board exam because you're not, when you're practicing as a dentist, you're not like measuring with a putty. You're just following the decay. Like your preps are still good. But the reason I had failed was it was under reduced. And so when you're not like, you know, really going hand measuring and you're eyeballing, you're like, oh, it looks good. Like, looks good. It's fine. The lab's going to make you a beautiful crown. But for an exam like this, like I forgot how rigorous the grading process was. And it's, I mean, it kind of has to be, but you forget that once you like leave this like traumatic experience, and to take it again, like, ugh, awful. And then to take it a third time, like, oh my God, it was awful.
And are you now keeping up your Boston license while you're there? Like thinking you guys might move back? Are you kind of making sure you still have it?
Yeah. So I actually just renewed it like 2 months ago because it's in March. So the way that it works with Boston is by March 31st, every 2 years, you have to renew it, and you have to have 40 CE credits, which is pretty like standard. With California, it's every 2 years. But it is 50 CE credits, and 25 of which have to be at like an in-person class or course, which is, pretty easy to do. Even for like free ones, it's not that hard to do. But with Boston, yeah, I just renewed it in March because I don't want to have to deal with reapplying for a whole new license and dealing with that. It's just easier to, unfortunately, pay the $700 and just, then you don't have to redo it all.
Yeah, it's better to stay in their good graces than get kicked out and have to try to get back into the licensed Boston club.
Yeah. But it's crazy because some states really are difficult, like Florida, for example. I'm not sure if you're aware. So when I flew to Florida to take the test for the first time, I won't like name drop, but sitting right next to me was this like really well-known dentist in Beverly Hills. Like he has like an incredible office. And I was kind of like, I know you from Instagram. Like, what the hell are you doing here? And he was like, oh, I'm trying to get my license in Florida to open an office in Miami. And doesn't matter that I've been practicing for 30 years or however many years, unless you took the board exam in the state of California, you can, or sorry, not California, in the state of Florida, you cannot apply for that license. So that was like even more mind blowing because I found out later he actually didn't pass as well that same day and then had to come back like a week later. Obviously, he had some sort of connection, got into the next test and took it a week later and obviously passed. But like crazy rule, crazy law that you have to take it in that state, which makes it one step additionally harder.
Yeah, and the grading and criteria, it's the same test. It's
same
supposed
test.
to be, yeah, from what I took in Michigan. Like our graders were mostly from like Indiana that graded my test. But like, so it doesn't matter that I took it in Michigan. Like it should have been the same no matter where you take it, standards wise and all that. So that's such a strange rule. I would think it would go away eventually, but we're not going to hold our breath about that.
Yeah. And you have to think like the dental board is looking to make money somehow. So like it's like an easy way for them to like, oh, you got to renew your license. Here's a cost. Here's this. And like whatever they're spending it on, like they're always going to find a way to penalize you somehow and charge you somehow. And they know you're good for it because they know you're making decent money. No matter if you're a new grad or not, they know you're going to be able to pay it. It sucks that you have to pay that.
Mm-hmm. And before we wrap up the licensing talk, do you have any advice if dental students are thinking now like, okay, maybe I'm in dental school in Wisconsin, but I want to move to Oregon after school, or I want to go see a few places and I want to go to a few different states. Like, is there anything they should be doing to be a little bit more prepared for getting licensed like somewhere else?
I would look into what that state specific, what their requirements are, because there are some like out of left field states like Georgia. You have to take like an entirely different test, like not even CDCA. I don't know exactly what the specifics are, but I know like Georgia, very difficult. Delaware, super difficult. Florida, as I said, difficult. New York, like you can't, unless you do a residency, you can't for at least 1 year, you can't practice there. Like there are some weird rules that you should be aware of. And if you think you're going to move, like just make sure that you have all those additional things, because if it's the residency thing, I think the reciprocity takes over. So if you've been working for 5 years, I think that cancels out the residency, but you never know what's going to happen to you in under 5 years. I mean, I never in a million years thought I was ever going to leave the East Coast. And then now I'm on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. And while I have you here, if you don't mind, could you talk about your experience finding a job in California? What was that like? Because I know it's very competitive.
So I will be very candid and transparent about that. California obviously is a massive state. There are some very good parts of California to practice as a dentist, but Los Angeles is not one of them, for sure. Like when I compare like, just basic contracts and even just patience and the busyness of the offices to how my office was in Massachusetts, it's like night and day. But again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's so saturated. So you've got so many dental schools right here. Nobody wants to leave. California's beautiful. The weather is incredible. I mean, if you went to dental school here, your family's probably here. So I get a lot of people's reason for wanting to stay here, but if I didn't have to be here because of my husband, it would never be my first choice.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I mean, that's what I've pretty much heard. Like, I hear a lot of panic from my peers that are either fourth years or maybe my same year that just graduated dental school that are trying to be in California. Like, one of them said, I think that they go to UCLA, and they're like, our class is really small, but the faculty told us that only like 40% of us will make it in California or something. And I'm like, geez.
Yeah,
like,
I believe it because it's so saturated. And to be honest, like the office that I'm at now, I love them. It's an incredible office, but I will tell you very honestly, I moved here in January. I didn't start working at this office until like April. So for that chunk of time, I was like working at other offices, and I was quite frankly miserable. Like until I found this office, I was like, is this LA? Like there's just a lot. It's so saturated that offices are kind of like cutting corners, and coming from practicing somewhere else that I never ran into that. Like I had a comparison, so I kind of knew better. I felt like a lot of things were unfair. A lot of places were understaffed. Like it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then luckily I was very aggressively looking, and I had been following my boss, Dr. Rhonda Colascio. I'd been following her on Instagram, and I had always been like, you know what? She's so like good. She's so this, like, what if I just reach out? So I reached out to her on Instagram, and she happened to be hiring, and like, it was the best thing that could have happened to me because her office is like so different than what I had experienced. And I had worked at enough offices to be able to say, like, I have seen LA. Like, I have really seen it. So my best advice would be, unless you have like some sort of like major tie to LA, don't start practicing in LA because the dentists here are also really good, like very high end, very, very good at what they do. So as a new grad, when you come into that market, you're going to struggle a little bit, and there's not as much mentorship. So I would say, like, even if you really want to be in California, like, go a little bit out of LA, drive an hour, 2 hours. Don't practice in LA right away until you feel like you can handle like this type of clientele. And yeah.
When are you guys done with the California? How much longer do you guys have there for his residency and stuff?
So he has 2 more years of his residency. He's doing anesthesiology at Cedars-Sinai, and he's in his 2nd year. He wants to do a fellowship, so a potential 3rd year. So we'll see. And to be honest, like at first I was really bummed because I loved my office in Massachusetts. I was so happy there, but I like this opportunity fell into my lap. I'm very happy where I'm at. So if we have to be here for that 3rd year for fellowship, like I'll be happy. But like if I hadn't found this office, I can tell you very honestly, like I would be very miserable.
Yeah, I'm very happy that you got this opportunity and it worked out because it's, I think, very slim chances of finding something really good out there. As even, I mean, you were several years of experience, but like you said, I mean, in the grand scheme, like there's just very, very competitive market out there. So
yeah. Have you found a job yet?
Yes. Yeah. I actually start on Monday. So it'll be exciting.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, I know. It'll be good. It's a small, like kind of rural town, but where I'm living is like a little more suburban metro. Okay. So it's like a best of both worlds.
How was the job finding process? Did you find it on Indeed or through like connections?
It was through kind of like a recruiter matching website, DDS Match. I don't know if you've heard of them. I don't know if they reach for either of the areas that you're in, but it's mostly like practice buy and sell, but they also do associate matching. So that's where I found this one, but it was several different offices from different pages and things, like you said, that I checked out, but that's the one I went with.
Nice. That's so exciting. Wow. It's June and you're already starting.
Yeah, because I got my license a week ago, so why not?
Here I am thinking like August was like brag-worthy. Oh my God.
Yeah, in Michigan, most of us that wanted to start working as soon as possible were starting like mid to late June. And then some people are waiting till after 4th of July, but most of us have our licenses. But some people are waiting until like August or so just because like they want the full break. But we've been done for like 2 months already. So I was ready to get going
Yeah,
and start making some money
absolutely.
and stuff. So
Yeah, that's how I was. Oh my God, that's so exciting.
thank you. I know I'm very excited. It's going to be a lot of different adjustments and feelings, but it's like the best office I could ask for. So I feel really
Yeah,
lucky.
that's really good.
So before we wrap up, since we're talking about kind of licensing and finding jobs and everything, most of the people listening are probably going to be towards the end of dental school. Is there anything you can think back, general advice you would give to someone that's finishing off dental school?
Yes. I would say, and this goes for you too, I would say that when you start working, you're a new grad and you're kind of like, oh, like nervous, and you're like, oh, okay. And like you kind of just like accept what they give you, the owner or whoever's in charge of like, especially like pay or contracts. If you ever feel like something is unfair or you feel like you're being undervalued, you probably are. And it doesn't matter if you've been working for a month or if you've been working for 5 years, you should always speak up because it's something that will eat at you and you will like burst at some point and then it just gets ugly. Like the sooner you speak up and say like, hey, I thought like this, was unfair, or like this was a case that I really wanted to do and like somehow it didn't end up with me. Like things like that happen, and sometimes it's accidents, sometimes it's just miscommunication. But if you just harbor it and don't say anything, um, no one knows that you're upset. People can't read your mind. So I would just say, like, speak your mind, be super transparent with your staff. That would be the first thing, especially when it comes to money, because that's the one thing I really wish that dental schools would spend at least like a one lesson on. Like, they don't talk about contracts really at all. At least my dental school didn't. And you really don't know what's a good contract versus a bad contract. You don't understand the way you're paid. You don't really know how to like use a dental software and like check reports and things like that. So I would say like keep tabs on your like production reports. It's information that you want to save for the future anyways, like to grow and like keep track of that. And then just to make sure that like you're being treated fairly. Did you have a lawyer look over your contract? Good.
Yeah, I did, thankfully. And it was super helpful. Like he went like line by line and explained everything and was like, this is things that is more normal than what was in there. So we got like negotiated and adjusted it with the owner and stuff. So it was like very helpful and very worth the money for sure.
Yeah. And that's something that like people are like, oh, I don't want to spend like X amount of money on a lawyer. But yes, it's like, the upfront cost, like it really does suck. A lot of times if you find a dental lawyer that is going to do a new grad discount, like sometimes they're really nice about it. It's like easy for them because they've done so many of these. So they're sometimes willing to be flexible with you, but it's worth it because then if something happens, like you could start this new job and I'm sure it's going to be perfectly fine, but you could hate it. And then if you want to leave, like what if your contract says 120 days? You're stuck. So you want to know how to get in and get out like relatively easy. And then the other thing I would say is even if it's not the owner of your office, find like any mentor. It could be a faculty member from your school that you just like keep in touch with. I regularly text my endo professor from dental school. Like I'm 4 years out of dental school and I text him all the time. Like we became friends. I love him. He's a great guy, but I'll shoot him a text and he responds right away. Like he's amazing. I lucked out that my first like few jobs in Boston, the owners were like, you can do it. They threw me in and just like wanted me to grow. But I found out very quickly in LA, that's not the situation. My current boss is very good mentor, but like a lot of the offices here, they were like, oh, you can't do that? Sorry, I'm not going to like spend time teaching you. You know, like you want somebody who is going to invest in your growth because they believe in you and they're going to invest in you, and then their practice is going to do well. So even if it's not the owner, if it's just like somebody you meet at a dental conference or somebody that you meet at like a whatever, somebody that you can text in a bind that like, hey, oh, I separated a file, or like, hey, like, does this look hard to you? Because you be surprised. You might look at an x-ray and say like, oh, it looks great. And then somebody with 15 years of experience might tell you stay away from that. So it's good to have somebody in your corner. Doesn't matter who it is, as long as it's somebody like within access.
Hola.
Hello, this call is being translated.
Abuela, listen to what my phone can do.
Abuela, escucha lo que mi teléfono puede hacer.
¡Wow! Ahora dime sobre tu novia nueva.
Wow, now tell me about this new girlfriend.
Huh?
Tú sabes lo que dije.
You know what I said.
Language is no longer a barrier thanks to Live Translate with Galaxy AI on Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Learn more at Samsung.com. Samsung account login required. Calls must be made using the native Samsung dialer.
Walmart Plus members save on meeting up with friends. Save on having them over for dinner with free delivery with no hidden fees or markups. That's groceries plus napkins plus that vegetable chopper to make things a bit easier. Plus, members save on gas to go meet them in their neck of the woods. Plus, when you're ready for the ultimate sign of friendship, start a show together with your included Paramount Plus subscription. Walmart Plus members save on this plus so much more. Start a 30-day free trial at walmartplus.com. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. See Walmart Plus terms and conditions.
Thank you for all of that. That's really good advice. And like you said, it's perfectly applicable to me right now too. It's a little pep talk for next week. Good information to keep in mind and everything. If anyone listening like has kind of personal questions related to your experience, is there a way that they could reach out to you to ask?
Yeah, of course. I have an Instagram. It's called Loupes and Lipstick. I actually made it when I was in dental school and I was like super big into it. And now I'm not as active, but I'm on there all the time. So if you have any questions, send me a DM. Even if you're like a prospective dental student and you're wanting to apply, I'm biased, obviously. I went to UNE. I cannot say enough good things about my school, and I absolutely loved it. I know it's in Portland, Maine, and people sometimes are like, oh, that's like far or random or whatever, but it was like the best decision I ever made was going there. Especially like meeting some of the other clinicians like out here when I compare the level of like exposure we had. And I'm sure your school was great too. You went to Michigan?
Yes.
Nice. Great school. So like, you know, even if you have questions about dental school stuff, like I'm always happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah. I feel like my podcast is like a UNE fan club, even though I didn't go there, because I know some people that did. And I'm like, that sounds like the best dental school, like hidden gem. No one talks about it, but
it's so crazy.
I mean, watching my friends go through school there compared to me, like it was better clinical experience. So I'm like, people need to give it an application, give it a try.
And I had no idea. Like I literally applied there just because I was like, well, it's an hour and a half away from my parents. Like this is good. And then I was kind of like bummed to be going there at first. I was like, oh, well, it's not Tufts. Like it's not BU. I really wanted to be in Boston and it didn't work out. So I was like not super pumped. And then towards the end, I was like, oh my God, like how many dental students can say they were placing implants and doing molar endo? Like not many. And when you graduate, you're like, oh, thank God. I was like crying some days because things were so hard, but now I like feel better. And a lot of it is because we don't have residents at our school. So like we don't have an endo program. We don't have a surgery program. So if there's like a difficult case, we're the only dental school in the state of Maine. People are driving from like 6 hours away to come and get it done here. And so there was a lot of exposure, which I took for granted then, but now I'm like so happy that I had that.
Yeah, it makes me a little envious. I'm like, I should have went there. I didn't even know it existed. Wasn't even on the radar.
It was like a last minute, like, oh, I'll just throw this application. And then I'm like, oh, great. Actually, it was great.
Yeah, it's good. Everything works out for a reason, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And good luck on your first day. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.